Emma woke up in the middle of the night with excruciating pain in her belly. She knew it was time to deliver the baby. She poked her husband Gavin to wake up, who was deeply asleep. When Gavin woke up and saw Emma in labor, he jumped out of his bed, helped Emma stand up from the bed, and took her outside. She grabbed her hospital bag and sat in the car. Emma took deep breaths and smiled a little. She could not wait to hold her baby after several miscarriages and 2 stillbirths. She was nervous about one thing, the baby's gender. Gavin always wanted a boy. When Emma was pregnant previously, Gavin was over the moon. But when he learned about the stillbirth of a baby boy, he was devastated. Emma remembered how upset he was and felt hopeless. She hated to see Gavin in disappointment. Thus, she wanted to give birth to a healthy son. She kept praying for a healthy baby on her way to the hospital. A few hours later, Emma delivered a healthy baby. "Congratulations, Mr. Cooper, on the birth of a healthy daughter!" Emma's doctor congratulated Gavin, and his smile disappeared. Gavin had hoped for a healthy baby boy. All his brothers and friends had boys, and they had big dreams for them. Gavin was the only one who didn't have a child. Yet he hoped he would one day be blessed with a boy and make him a successful doctor. But when the doctor broke the news of a girl, he felt deeply sad. Emma noticed that Gavin had become quiet after seeing the baby girl. She tried to make him feel better by starting a conversation. "Gavin, I am planning to name her Mandy, because she reminds me of your sister Mandy." Emma smiled and thought naming their daughter after Gavin's sister and Emma's best friend would make him smile. However, Gavin remained silent and simply nodded. The next day, Emma and Mandy went back home. Gavin was still upset and hadn't talked much to Emma or taken his daughter in his arms. He still couldn't process that his child was a girl. Emma decided to talk to him. "Gavin, what is it? I thought you'd be happy that we are blessed with a perfectly healthy baby." Gavin looked at her angrily and replied, "Yes, but it's a girl. I always wanted a son." Emma got teary-eyed and replied, "It's okay, Gavin. Maybe next time we will get a boy. You can dream for Mandy. She'll fulfill all of your dreams." Gavin laughed and said, "Next time? What next time? You know that we can only afford one baby. I don't have the fortune to raise 2 babies, and you just sit all day at home." Emma was hurt. She didn't respond back. She went to her bedroom, hugged her baby girl tightly, and softly whispered, "You are my everything, my darling." She kissed Mandy and went to sleep. The next morning when she woke up, she saw that Gavin wasn't at home. He must have left for work, Emma thought. She got up and heard the soft wailings of Mandy. Emma changed and fed her, and she went back to sleep again. After that, she got busy with the house chores and prepared favorite dishes of Gavin to improve his mood. But she had no idea what Gavin would do to her that night. "I want you to pick up your daughter and leave my house!" Gavin screamed as he entered the house. "Gavin, are you serious? It looks like you are drunk. Please get some rest and we'll talk tomorrow." Emma was horrified for herself and her daughter. "I said get out of my house. I don't want a woman who can't give me a baby boy. You are not capable of giving birth to a boy. You had so many miscarriages, stillbirths, and now a girl? Get out. I'll marry a woman who can give me a baby boy." Gavin held Emma's arm and pushed her out of the house with all of his might. Emma was startled. She held Mandy tightly in her arms as Gavin flung her out of the house. She kept crying and begging Gavin to let her in as she had nowhere to go. But Gavin shut the door to her face and went inside. Emma stood there entire night, constantly banging on the door, tears flowing down her eyes while asking Gavin to let her. But Gavin didn't open the door. He forgot about his wife and daughter and slept through the night. Emma was worried about her daughter and herself. She didn't have a single dollar or anyone in the family to whom she could go. She was all by herself with her little daughter. Emma left her house and started walking, not knowing where to go or whom to ask for help. She simply kept walking. It was dark at night, and she felt terrified about her safety. She saw a bench near a shop and decided to lie down for a while. She kept Mandy on her chest and lay on the ice-cold bench. Emma sensed someone standing beside her. She tightly hugged Mandy and woke up swiftly. An old couple was staring at her. "Child, it's not safe for you to be here. It's cold and your baby could catch a cold," the elderly lady told her. Emma nodded and replied, "I don't have anywhere to go. My husband kicked me out in the evening. I'll try to go to shelter homes to live there with my daughter." Emma wiped a tear from the corner of her eyes as she spoke. "Why don't you come home with us? You can stay the night, and then in the morning you can go to the shelter home," the old man offered. "Yes, that'd be great. Please come with us," the lady insisted. Emma was unsure if she should go with the couple as they were total strangers to her, but she didn't have any other option. She needed a place to crash to protect herself and Mandy from the cold temperature. Emma nodded and stood up. "Thank you so much, Ms." she replied. The old lady replied, "Kathy, and he is Abraham." Emma went to their small yet cozy house and made herself comfortable. Kathy served her hot stew, and Abraham looked after Mandy while Emma was eating. Kathy looked at Emma and asked, "Dear, did you have a fight with your husband?" Emma shook her head and told her everything that had happened between them. "What a disgusting man! He should be thankful that he's blessed with a child. Some couples like us never had the chance to become parents," Kathy replied sadly. Abraham cleared his throat and said, "Emma dear, you can stay as long as you want. There's no rush for you to leave." She slept comfortably on the couch, holding Mandy by her side in a small basket. "I need to sleep to figure out what I will do next," she thought as she slept till noon the next day. "Oh my God, it's so late," Emma said as she woke up. "That's fine, dear. You were stressed out last night. I hope you feel better," Kathy said politely. Emma nodded and looked for Mandy, who was playing with Abraham. "Abraham loves kids. He always wanted an army of kids, but God had other plans for us," Kathy told Emma as she sipped her coffee. Emma smiled and was happy that Abraham was having a good time with Mandy. "Kathy, can you help me find a job and a place to stay? I don't know anyone in this city," Emma asked her. Kathy took Emma's hand and pressed it gently. "Darling, you can live here as long as you want. I can help you find a job." Emma smiled and was happy that she had found Kathy. Emma helped Kathy with the house chores and cooking for the next few days. Kathy was happy that Emma and Mandy had adjusted to their house. Emma had also found a job as a salesgirl in a shoe store. She had saved enough to rent a comfortable apartment for her and Mandy. However, Abraham had attached too much to Mandy and insisted that Emma live with them as their daughter. Emma was moved by Abraham and Kathy's love for Mandy. Thus, she agreed and was happy that she had found a new family. She had forgotten about Gavin. Years passed, and Mandy started going to college. She had always been a bright child and scored straight A's in school. Emma, Abraham, and Kathy were proud of her and had high hopes for her future. "I want to be an oncologist and save people from cancer," Mandy would say with a gleam in her eyes. Emma would kiss her forehead and say, "You will be a successful oncologist, my child. You are brilliant." Mandy got a scholarship and went to New York to medical school, where she passed with flying colors. She kept hustling and turned her dream into a reality of becoming an oncologist. She landed a job at a famous hospital and quickly made her mark. The senior doctors in the hospital were impressed with Mandy's dedication to treating her patients and her friendly attitude towards them. Mandy would talk to her patients and give them hope about life, which many patients lose during their treatment. She always told Emma everything about her patients and how she talked to them. One day, a man was admitted to the hospital. He was 55 years old and was fighting stage 2 of cancer. Mandy was his doctor. She asked him a few questions about his family. "I have no family. My wife and sons have kicked me out of the house," he replied sadly. Mandy was sad to hear this. She understood what her mother must have felt when her father kicked them out. Mandy took the man's hand and said, "My father also kicked me out, but I didn't stop living. You should be hopeful that one day you'll be happy." The man looked at her and smiled. Mandy assured him that he would be all right and cancer-free soon. For the next few months, Mandy and her team treated the patient and made him cancer-free. Mandy called her Emma and told her how she had treated the man who had given up on life. "Mom, Mr. Cooper is fine. He can go back to his home and live a healthy life," Mandy exclaimed. Emma felt proud of her daughter, but listening to the name Cooper made her remember her husband, Gavin Cooper. "Mandy, you are amazing, and I am proud to be your mother," Emma said. Mandy went to meet Mr. Cooper before his discharge. "So, Mr. Cooper, how do you feel to be cancer-free?" She smiled and asked him. Mr. Cooper smiled and said, "I never felt so great, Dr. Harlow. It is all because of you that I am alive today. Doctor, can I ask you a favor?" Mandy nodded, and Mr. Cooper said, "Can I talk to your mother and thank her for raising such a wonderful daughter?" Mandy smiled and said, "It's perfectly fine, Mr. Cooper. I'll deliver your message to her." Mr. Cooper looked at her and insisted, "Please, Miss Harlow. It was my dream that my boys become doctors, but they didn't listen to me and wasted their time loitering around and wasting money." He had tears in his eyes. Mandy video called her mother and said, "Mom, Mr. Cooper is getting discharged today. He wants to speak to you." Emma smiled and nodded her head. Mandy gave her cell phone to Mr. Cooper so he could thank Emma, but Mr. Cooper couldn't speak a word when he saw her mother. Instead, Mandy noticed that Mr. Cooper started crying violently. She disconnected the call and asked Mr. Cooper what was wrong with him. "I am so stupid. Why didn't I know that you are my daughter, Mandy Harlow?" Cooper cried. Mandy didn't understand what he was saying. "Mandy, I am your father. I still remember the day I kicked Emma and you out of my house on a chilly night. I am Gavin Cooper. Your father, dear. I can't believe you're a doctor." Gavin was crying inconsolably, and Mandy stood there perplexed. She left the room for the balcony to get some fresh air. She stood there for a few minutes, trying to process everything. Her cell phone rang. It was Emma. "Mandy, are you okay? It was Gavin, your father." Mandy couldn't hear the hoarse voice of her mother. "Yes, Mother. He just told me. He confessed that he threw you and me out of the house when we had nothing," Mandy told Emma. "He has also told me that his sons are useless and kicked him out of the house," Mandy said in a low voice. "Mandy, please don't feel sad. He got what he did. Gavin was crazy about sons. Look where it has brought him. He must be longing for you to come back in his life and forgive him," Emma said. Mandy shook her head. "No, Mama. He cut me off from his life when you and I both needed him. I don't want a father because I have a strong and resilient mother like you," she said to Emma. Emma and Mandy were both proud of how far they had come in life despite being abandoned by Gavin, who was supposed to protect his wife and daughter.
Andrew. 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 His mother screamed 3 times, trying very hard to draw his attention. It was just like a joke, but is now a reality they both faced with. His teacher has complained severely about his absence-minded, limited attention, impulsivity, and hyperactivity at school, and his mother has noticed those changes, overlooking them. He was first diagnosed with a disability in the form of ADHD at the age of 7 years. Andrew's educators informed his parents that he probably wouldn't graduate high school, much less college. But with appropriate educational support, advice, and support from both parents, relatives, and friends, alongside medicine if necessary, he may live a long life, Andrew's doctor told them. His dreams of becoming a music instructor were put on hold as his parents couldn't digest what just happened, more or less the situation that would shape their son's life forever. Some day-to-day activities became difficult for him, as he finds it hard to do the things he usually likes, sleeping at night, getting ready for school on time, difficulty following instructions, forgetfulness, losing personal items such as lunchboxes, books in school, and so on. The diagnosis resulted in his parents withdrawing him from his regular school environment to look for special education centers and courses. While his parents were looking out for musical schools for children with disabilities, since they noticed he still had an interest in music and was still interested in pursuing his goals. Due to the poor management of the ADD, he developed Meniere disease, an inner ear disorder which affected his hearing and balance. On different occasions, he blanks out from the world and locks himself up for days without eating, relating, or communicating with the world before him. The onset of the disorder left Andrew with the scary reality that he could permanently lose his hearing at any time. Before this time, Andrew was a bright student and the best in his musical class at the village school in a small city in Houston, Texas. He loved sports and played every musical. He pays attention to details. His surrendering has a good relationship with his friends and the people around him. He, most time, questions his mother and God as to why they will allow him to face this difficult situation, as he recalls his former classmate taking advantage of this knowledge with an inappropriate prank. While speaking to him, the sound from their mouth abruptly halted, while their lips continued to move. Andrew thought he had gone deaf completely, until his classmates started laughing, which we could hear. Behaviors like this took their toll on his confidence, yet he knew he could contribute to society. He didn't let their attitude affect him as he went about his life. His parents heard of a particular school built for children with disability, and they made inquiries and enrolled him. This new school is unique, built for disabled children interested in music, by the name Villa Heaven Center, located in a small city in San Francisco, where children with a disability can find inspiration in new friends and music. A once dilapidated building in San Francisco has been transformed into a musical haven for children with disabilities and autism, a first of its kind in the United States. Villa Heaven Center, it was called. The center provides a safe space for children and young people to explore the power of music, which benefits them creatively and therapeutically. The Music Center is a project of the Children Trust Foundation, and the premises were donated by Juan Julio and his wife, Mira, who were both physically disabled. Mr. Juan is an amputee after dealing with a significant amount of pain and multiple surgeries as a result of Trevor's disease, a bone disease. He decided to have an amputation to live a more fulfilling life and inspire others, and in the course of inspiring others through his story, he meets his wife Mira years later, an award-winning deaf director and activist. She was diagnosed as deaf at 15 after contracting meningitis. Mira grew up with a love for helping others. They both decided to use their stories and life experiences to encourage others. The building includes 4 large, well-lit music rooms named after a planet: Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. The official opening of Villa Heaven Center for Music took place on Wednesday morning. A momentous day for all the team and the children, school consultant Maria Guerra told them. All 4 rooms were filled with music, laughter, and cheer as children with diverse disabilities took center stage and performed. Andrew played the grand piano as he showed his talent to his friends and teachers. "I love filling up spaces with my music. It makes me happy and helps me make new friends," he said. Alessia, Andrew's new friend, who has been practicing the piano for 8 years, struggling with autism, joined him. While 5-year-old Melania does not let her blindness stop her from playing the violin and singing. And 7-year-old Elul was diagnosed with cancer in both eyes, resulting him in losing sight. Despite the challenges, the 7-year-old enjoys lessons in the villa, where he can play the xylophone. Together, the duo produced a beautiful harmony, filling the hall of Villa Heaven with their symphony. Children with disabilities can find a safe space to create and play music at Villa Heaven. Music can open new paths and enrich our lives, Villa Heaven consultant Miss Rosetta, a pianist and music therapist, said. She has been waiting many years for the opening of the center. The arts are so beautiful, and music especially can transcend a disability. It helps open new pathways and enrich someone's life, she said. Villa Heaven has enrolled 63 disabled students in this section. As you all know, this is our very first set. There is a lot of work to be done, but it is worth every minute. We believe in the arts, that music has brought power and joy to all these children and their families. We are already talking with the University of California to start a local course on blend music therapy and offer students the opportunity to learn amongst the professionals here at the center, their instructor informed them. It was a momentous day for all teachers and students, as Andrew and his new friends played happily, and he could forget his sorrows. He continued with his life, attending classes and making new friends. The following year came, and Andrew became 10 years old. Things finally fell into place for him. He was his class musical prefect and was contesting to be junior student president. He was bullied by a student from his previous school, Charles, the youngest son of the school principal. Charles has been one of the few people who have made a mockery of him and his disability. He remembers walking through the halls of his school building and hearing Charles and his friends call out these words, "Why are you on this earth? You don't deserve to be alive." The bullying followed him every day. "I didn't want to go to school because I knew they would be there. I was afraid," says Andrew to Miss Martha, their student counselor. Weeks into the new year, the harassment and intimidation escalated and turned physical. It was usually mental abuse, but at one point in his 8th grade, the bullying became serious as Charles and his friends would take turns calling him names and giving him all types of insults. I had enough, Andrew's mother, Karen, told his teachers. The verbal and physical abuse needed to stop. Andrew and his mother reported the incident to Charles's parents, school, and the police resource officer. A student from Charles's school who witnessed the physical bullying stepped forward and confirmed the story. The officer reprimanded Charles. However, no further action was taken by his school. Although the daily torment ended, Andrew's respite was temporary. Charles' verbal aggression resurfaced, and it started to impact his schoolwork, self-esteem, and overall health. Andrew exhibited many warning signs of being bullied: depressed mood, physical ailments, and school avoidance. It started small with his belly hurting him. Then he didn't want to go to school, Andrew's mom told Miss Martha. Andrew stopped playing piano, stopped hanging out with his friend Alessia, and stopped doing homework. He spent as much time in the counselor's office as he did in classes. Andrew missed 30 days of school that year due to bullying. Andrew's counselor, Miss Martha, introduced his mom to Dr. Peter Raffelli about his experience being bullied. Andrew and his mom met with the backpack team, including a pediatric neurologist and backpack program director, Dr. Peter Raffelli. With the team's help, they could pull him out of depression. He returned to Villa Heaven, where he shared his story of victimization, learned skills to combat bullying, and was given tools to promote self-empowerment. Andrew, speaking to his friends the next few days, told them that he was happy that someone who wasn't a loved one validated he was being bullied, and it wasn't his fault. As he spoke, they could see the burden begin to lift from his shoulders. He didn't let the intimidation he faced every day define him. Rather than demoralizing him, it left him stronger. Simply because he was differently abled does not mean he will stop living. A few years down the line, with the help of Mr. Juan and his family, he was admitted into the Berklee School of Music. Life on the campus was not all roses, as he struggled to blend and lend a helping hand to disabled students like him, which resulted in him creating the Berklee Disability Club, where the club's sole purpose is to create a space for people with disabilities. Creating a network of support for students with disabilities and helping them to advocate for their needs on campus, hosting awareness events on campus, and potentially putting on concerts featuring all disabled performers. He also joined an e-sport club, Berklee Esports, where he helped with collegiate tournaments, video game music, game nights, board games, card games, Minecraft, Dungeons & Dragons, and more. He found being busy and devoting his time to things that he loves helps him stay sane. He became a volunteer as a music director in his church, helped to lead the church choir and develop their music-oriented activities and performance, recruited and auditioned new singers and volunteers, fostered each singer's musical growth, and appointed senior choir members to become section leaders, soloists, and assistant conductors. He helps choose the choir's performance pieces, prepare special programs for holidays or special occasions. He further developed the preceding pastor in developing the church's music programs by leading small music classes at an associated Sunday school, planning local performances and choir showcases, or training a separate church or gospel band. In July of 2013, everything changed for Andrew. As he graduated with second-class honors in music, Mr. Juan could not wait any longer to employ him as assistant music instructor of Villa Heaven Center. He also joined the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, working as a contractor in the Division of Human Development and Disability at the National Center on Birth Defects and Developmental Disabilities. Andrew's colleagues emphasized making him feel comfortable and respected as a diverse and productive workforce member. They welcomed Andrew's diversity, positively contributing to his overall health. The Division of Human Development and Disabilities mission is to lead public health in preventing disease and promoting equity in the health and development of children and adults with or at risk for disabilities. 1 in 2 adults with disabilities does not get enough aerobic physical activity. For Andrews, regular physical activity is essential to help him combat with. Andrew walks for a few minutes every working hour, stretches or uses his desk cycle. He also participates in walking meetings, leading to more creative and productive meetings. Andrew is still single, but is living a happy and fulfilled life. The bed was creaking as he turned over onto the other side. This old iron bed, with a mattress that smelled horrendous, has been his bed for the past 15 years. But tonight is his last night sleeping in it. He will be a free man tomorrow. Ben could not believe that this was happening. After spending so many years in prison, the time has finally come for him to go home. But where is home? His wife left him shortly after he was found guilty. His son wants nothing to do with him. He does not even know if his family still lives in their old house. Cindy has probably sold it by now. Too many memories in there. He sighed heavily, knowing that his future was so uncertain. One thing was for sure, though. Someone else committed the crime he was accused of. And Ben was determined to find those responsible and clear his name. He lost everything and will stop at nothing to bring the real criminal to justice. When he woke up the following day, Ben was ready to leave that place and never come back. There was a sign of great disappointment on his face when he exited the prison, only to find out that no one had come. As he walked down the street, Ben could feel that a car was slowly driving behind him. He started walking faster and realized the vehicle started moving more quickly. What am I afraid of? He asked himself, feeling he had nothing to lose. Ben stopped walking and decided to see who was in that car. With the window rolled down, the vehicle slowly approached him. An unfamiliar face stared at him for a while before finally saying something Ben thought he would never hear. "Hello, Ben. You don't know me, but I surely know you. And there is something else I do know. You were imprisoned for someone else's crimes. Don't you think it's time to find out what happened that night?" When the initial shock wore off, Ben nodded his head. "I don't know where to start looking," said Ben. "I hardly remember anything that happened that night." The man in the car looked at Ben, deciding whether to believe his words or not. Ben realized that the man had doubts, so he told him he had a few drinks that night because his family was celebrating Cody's birthday. Cody was Ben's son, who had already finished college by now and was working as a teacher at the local high school. One of the things that Ben did remember was the smell of burning flesh, and screams. He remembered hearing someone scream in agony, but he was trapped under a pile of rubble and could not help anyone. He also remembered blazing flames coming from all sides. That was it. He had been trying for years, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not remember anything else. The man in the car looked at Ben and told him the answers lay with him. He has to look hard and deep enough to find them. Then he rolled up his window, and the car slowly drove away. Ben was even more confused now. The answers lie with him? What does that even mean? How does this man expect him to remember that night when he has been trying to do that for the past 15 years? Without even realizing it, Ben arrived at their house. The house he and Cindy bought after they got married. The house where Cody grew up. And also the house where he was arrested in the middle of the night. This was the last place he was happy. The last place he felt safe, loved. He had no idea what to expect as he slowly walked toward the front door. Was this still even his house? Does Cindy still live here? Or did she and Cody move elsewhere? The door slowly opened, and there she was, beautiful as ever, with her long brown hair and big green eyes, his Cindy. "Hi," said Ben, his voice trembling and his eyes filled with tears. "What are you doing here?" asked Cindy. Ben told her he got released today and had no place to go. You can't stay here," said Cindy. "Cody is coming over later," she added. Ben knew that his son hated him, and Cindy could see how devastated her ex-husband was. Despite everything, she never stopped loving him. However, distancing herself from him was the only thing she could do since her son was labeled as the son of a murderer and therefore targeted by bullies at school. "Here's some money. Check yourself into a motel, and we will try to figure something out," Cindy said softly. "I will correct this, find out who killed her, and clear my name," said Ben. Cindy shook her head and told Ben to leave the past in the past. Their lives are already ruined enough, and there is no need to complicate things more. After checking into the motel, Ben started thinking about that night. There were bits and pieces scrambled in his head, but he has not been able to put them together. He wanted to remember so severely, but he had made no progress in the past 15 years. It was already late, so Ben decided to get some sleep and start looking for answers in the morning. The next day, he decided to go to the library and use the computer. He could see people staring at him and hear them whispering as he walked down the street. He was guilty in their eyes, and no one wanted him around. Ben was heartbroken to see some of his former friends pass him by without saying a word. He was like a stranger in his hometown, a town where he grew up, got married, and started a family. A familiar face greeted him at the library. Cindy was working here even before they met. "Are you following me?" she asked with a smile. Ben smiled and told her that he had come here to use the computer. Their conversation was brief and formal, but Ben could feel that Cindy suffered too. He had no idea where to start, what to even search for, so he tried searching for her name, Allison Myers. There were several news articles, all featuring her picture, the victim. Her brown eyes stared at him from the screen as he realized he almost forgot what she looked like. Next picture, him, the killer. Every article he read said pretty much the same thing. He attacked her, drugged her, and wanted to force himself onto her. However, when he realized he had given her too many drugs, he decided to burn the body and the house, leaving as little evidence as possible. Ben kept reading and reading. Even though he could not remember what had happened, he knew he could not do something like that. Why would he? He had a loving wife, a great kid, and a wonderful life. Why would he go and attack this girl? Nothing made sense to Ben. He then decided to check some articles about memory loss. During his search, he came across the term suppressed memories. As he was reading, Ben realized that this might be what happened with his memory. Due to immense trauma, his brain protected him by blocking those memories. After hours of reading about suppressed memories, Ben decided it was time to head back to the motel. He waved at Cindy and headed out. There was one thing he read about suppressed memories that kept bugging him. In theory, suppressed memories can often be recovered with the help of a trigger. So now, he has to find out what could help him trigger his memory. He could not sleep that night. A million thoughts raced through his head, but the main question was always the same. What is his trigger? He kept thinking and thinking until he concluded that it was time to visit the crime scene. Ben woke up very nervous. Having doubts about his theory, he decided it was still worth a try. After all, he had absolutely nothing left to lose. His heart raced and the taxi slowly pulled over in front of the house. He was there. This is where it happened. This is where his life changed forever. Ben could not believe his eyes. It had been 15 years, but the house was still there. What was left of the house anyway? Once a lovely home was a pile of rubble and black from all the damage the fire caused. Slowly, Ben walked toward the house. The upper floor was destroyed, so he started exploring the ground floor. There was a yellow police tape on the floor saying, "Crime scene, do not cross." As he walked around, Ben still had no memory of the events there that evening. Then he reached a pile of rubble that used to be the stairs leading to the first floor. He suddenly felt fear, and his heart started racing like crazy. He heard screams, begging for help. The pieces in his head slowly started coming together. It was a lovely summer night. Ben and Cindy surprised their son Cody because it was his birthday. They were having a good time, a few friends came over, and it was a great evening. After the party, Ben decided to go for a walk, as he felt he had too much to drink and wanted to clear his head. He was walking for a while when he ran into Allison. They did not know each other, even though they lived pretty near. Ben saw Allison carrying many bags, so he offered to help. They got to her house, and he had the bags inside. Allison thanked him, and the doorbell rang just as he left the house. Ben saw Allison's face change in an instant. She looked utterly terrified. Ben then remembered that the man at the door just broke in and started yelling at Allison. He suddenly stopped when he saw Ben, but then he came at him and hit him in the head. Then it all went black for a few minutes. When he arrived, Ben heard Allison begging the man to leave her alone and stop hurting her. The man told her that leaving him was a mistake and now she would face the consequences. Allison replied that no one would believe she died of an overdose since she never did drugs. The man laughed and told her there would not be a body to do an autopsy on because he would burn her. Allison started crying, and Ben lost consciousness again. By the time he woke up, the house was already on fire. He could hear Allison calling for help, but Ben realized he was lying under a pile of rubble. This is where the stairs used to be. This is where the man tied him. Ben felt his hands were not tied anymore. The man probably untied him before he left, and Ben now realized precisely why he did that. There was now no evidence suggesting that Ben was just a friendly neighbor who found himself at the wrong place at the wrong time. Ben would become the prime suspect of the crime if anything went wrong, and that is exactly what happened. Police found no evidence of any other person being at the house at the time of the crime. There was just Ben, with no alibi or memory of what happened, until today. But who is this man? Will anyone believe him? Having his memory back, Ben realized it was time to go back to the motel and decide what to do next. As he was leaving the house, he saw that car again. He walked right over. "I remember everything," Ben said. "I believe it was her ex who killed her," he added. The man looked at him, and Ben could see a little smile on his face. "Thank you, Ben. Finally, the time has come for my sister to get the justice she deserves," the man in the car said. Ben was shocked. Her brother? He had no idea she had a brother, but he didn't know anything about her in any way. "What happens now?" Ben asked. "Now you go home and let me handle everything," said Allison's brother. "My name is Steve, by the way, and thank you again. I know you and your family suffered a great deal. I hope it is not too late for you to reconnect with your family. Good luck, Ben," the man said, and then drove off. The following day, everything changed. The news was all reporting the story of a wrongfully convicted man. The real killer was behind bars. It looked like Steve took care of everything. Ben started crying. Tears of joy ran down his face when he heard a knock. As he opened the door, Cindy stood there, his beautiful Cindy. "Can I hug you?" she asked. Ben walked toward her and nodded. 15 years of waiting, 15 years of loneliness, and just one hug filled his heart with immense joy and love. "I should have believed you," Cindy said as she burst into tears. "I understand now. It was a perfect crime with the perfect scapegoat. My memory loss also did not help my case. There were times when I believed I was guilty. I do not blame you. I am happy I could prove my innocence and help find the real killer. Past is in the past now. It is time to start looking into the future. And I would very much like you to be a part of my future," Ben said to Cindy. "I would very much love that too," Cindy replied. The sun was setting when Cindy and Ben arrived at their house. The front door opened, and there was Cody. His eyes were full of tears as he ran over to his dad. No words were necessary, and Ben just hugged his son. Everything was okay now. He was home with his wife and son. It took him 15 years, but he was finally free.